listeners. Welcome to Plano's Political Pitbull Podcast. I am Esther.
And I'm Ruth.
And we have lots to get to today, but first, our sponsor is Southwest Pain Management. Southwest Pain Management takes care of most chronic pain without pain pills. Their goal is to get you back to doing the things you love. They are also the world's leading long COVID experts. Dr. Groisman sees people from all over the world to treat their long COVID. Southwest Pain Management is in Plano. Please go to their website, reliefbeginshere.com. That's reliefbeginshere.com to see all that they do. So first up, we have Plano. The Plano City Council has picked the members of the Collin County Connects Committee. Interesting that they call it the Collin County Connects Committee.
So that's a tongue twister.
It is a tongue twister, isn't it? Because only Plano residents are on the committee. Actually, only Plano residents could apply to be on the committee. But they called it Collin County Connects, not Plano Connects.
Huh.
Out of 100 applications, they picked 13 people to sit on this board. 1 chair and 2 people to represent 6 categories. The job of the board is to plan alternative transportation if the residents vote to leave DART in May. The start date for the alternative transit will be March 2nd, 2026, so we will get a whole 2 months to see if the alternative transit plan works before we vote on leaving or staying in DART. I don't know what the qualifications were for these folks. I think they just had to be Plano residents. And they had to represent these certain categories. So there are 6 categories. They are disability, senior, business owner, downtown, underrepresented, and riders.
What does underrepresented mean?
I guess people who live on the west side. That would be my guess, because the buses here on the west side suck. Basically there's not a lot of public transit in that area. That's good. So anyway, 2 people represent 1 category for a total of 12 people plus the chair to run the committee. And they picked former Mayor Phil Dreyer as the chair. I don't know what expertise he has other than he was a former mayor and he knows how to run a committee or a corral group of people into working together. The committee has met already, and they got a presentation from the private group who runs Arlington's transportation program. Arlington does not have any mass transportation agency. They run strictly through private companies. The meetings are not videoed. So if you want to go and see them, you actually have to go down to City Hall and watch them in person, which sucks for everyone else who can't do that. Don't you love government? They say we're the most transparent and yet they don't let us see something that is going to affect thousands of people daily. I didn't recognize any of the names that got picked, so that's why I'm not reading them. Other than Phil Dreyer, I don't know what their qualifications are. I do know that the person who represents the disability group actually is somebody who works with people with disabilities. So that's good, I guess. We'll see what happens. Again, not quite sure how this is going to work, everybody, but we'll have to see what happens. Maybe they'll come up with something better, and maybe everybody will like it, and they'll vote to leave DART. Maybe they won't, and they'll vote to stay in DART. But we shall see, and we shall keep you posted. So this weekend, I had seen that the governor put out a plan to reduce property taxes even more than the state has already tried to reduce them. So he's put out a 5-point plan. And the first point is spending limits on local governments. Oh, I can just see the lobbyists running down to Austin as fast as they can for that one. They're not going to like that one at all. Number 2, property taxes should never go up without the residents getting to vote on it by a 2/3 majority. Now, I want to know, is that a 2/3 majority of who shows up for the vote? Or is that a 2/3 majority of registered voters?
I think whoever shows up for the vote.
No, that's the problem. If 100 people show up to vote and the city's only got, let's say the city's got over 300,000 people and only 100 people show up, you're only going to do 2/3 of 100? That's going to decide this question?
The thing is, turnout is always super low, so it's either that they do that or it just never gets voted on.
Maybe if they put it only during presidential years. Presidential election years.
I still don't think that would do anything.
No, that won't do anything. Well, it would probably be at the end of the ballot, so yeah. All right. Number 3, in his 5-point plan, allow for a rollback election. So let's say your taxes went up, people didn't like that, they can, by petition, vote to put a rollback on the ballot. That one did not need a supermajority, just a majority. Number 4, reform the appraisal process. The appraisal, your appraisal should only go up 3% a year. Right now it can go up as much as 10% a year. And your appraisals should only be every 5 years. So that will basically keep the value that the town or the county deems your house is worth for 5 years. And of course, if that skyrockets after 5 years, then your taxes are going to skyrocket. Unless by some magic your taxing entities decide actually to lower your rate, your tax rate, which very rarely happens. And then 5 is to end homestead property taxes by school districts. Now, when they say homestead, that means that your primary residence, right? So not your business, not your second house if you have one, but your primary home residence will be actually no property taxes for the schools. For your cities and your other taxing entities, apparently those are staying. The school district, that gets eliminated. So I know you're just dying to ask, well, how are you going to pay for the schools if they eliminate property taxes on primary residences? And the governor said that they can pay for it with the money in the surplus. There's apparently plenty of money in the budget surplus. Guess they have some savings. Guess they took in more than they spent. What a concept. And he says there's plenty of money there to do this. And if they do that, there'll still be money left over. You know what I didn't hear? I didn't hear anything about abolishing property taxes completely on primary residence like Florida wants to do. So in Florida, they're going to have a constitutional amendment election in 2026 to basically eliminate property taxes on primary residences. So what the governor of Florida said was the majority of property taxes in Florida come from non-primary residential houses or commercial properties. In other words, second houses, rentals, and business property make up approximately 70% of those property taxes that are collected in Florida. I don't know if we can do that here. I foresee maybe a lot of people wanting to move to Florida if this does pass, but I don't see that happening here unless we're talking about maybe Galveston and some of the places that are on the coastal areas of Texas. Here's the problem. And the problem is with property taxes. You never own your home. You are basically renting it from your local governments. Because if you don't pay your property taxes, the government can come and take your house. And they can sell your house to pay off your property tax bill. This doesn't make us free people. It makes us serfs to the government. No other tax does this. It's also taxing unrealized gains. Yes, your home went up in value, but you do not see that profit until you sell that home, and that could be 20 years from now. So the next question people often ask is, if we eliminate property taxes, how will we pay for things? I'm going to hazard a guess what people's answers are to these things.
Increasing the sales tax?
Sometimes, yeah, increasing the sales tax. There are other ways governments collect money. I love how people, they think that we have had this system since the beginning of time. We haven't.
Well, when you've grown up with it your entire life, yeah, that's what it feels like.
Sometimes, yes, it does. So the government collects sales taxes, it collects fees for services. And this is something that the libertarians have been talking about for a very long time and believe very strongly that if you want a service from the government, you should pay a fee for the service, no matter what it is. We do this already with our water, our trash, and our sewers. Right now, we want water, we pay for the use of the water by how much of it we use. You need trash, your trash picked up. Guess what, folks? We pay for that service every month, just like any other service. You need an ambulance to give you a ride to the hospital? That is not covered in our property taxes. No. You get charged a bill for the ride in Plano. Now, some are voluntary and they ask you for a donation, which I thought was nice. But in Plano, they actually charge you. And if you're lucky to have insurance that covers that, your insurance can pay for it. But property taxes are not based on how much of a service we use, but by how much our property value is. The poorest person can call the police 50 times a year. They're still going to pay property taxes for that. They're not paying for every time the police come out. A person who never calls the police, they still have to pay their property taxes. Same thing, a better example is probably fire. You never have to call the fire department. Lucky you, but you still pay for the fire department through your property taxes. But a person who does call the fire department, they just have to pay their property taxes, no matter what the property tax is. Also, no matter how good a job the government does or does not do, you still have to pay your property tax bill. So they can do a bad job, they can waste your money on things we don't need, but they still get paid. And the only way a resident has a say about it is at the ballot box. So yeah, you can vote new people in, but guess what? You still pay the property tax and never truly own your home. Any questions, Ruth?
No.
Comments? Concerns?
Meh.
Nah, okay. So the state has tried all kinds of ways to control the increase in property taxes. They've given us deductions. They've capped how much a taxing entity can raise your property taxes. But so far, no matter what the state does, cities, counties, and school districts still seem to find a way to raise your tax bill. People have tried to tell their government officials to keep the taxes low. They have written letters. They have went to city council meetings or school board meetings, and it's fallen on deaf ears. So municipalities should not be shocked when the state hears complaints from its citizens that their property tax bills are too high and they can't afford their homes. So Governor Abbott, he came up with this idea to lessen the burden. But I'm sorry, as long as local governments can collect property taxes, they're going to figure out a way to raise them. So I don't know if the government's 5-point plan is going to pan out when the legislature goes back to session in 2027. He is running for re-election. This will be his 4th term if he wins. So
Jeez.
Obviously this is part of his campaign, but whether, if he wins, I have no doubt that he'll try to do it, but it is going to be up to the legislature in the end.
Who came up with the property tax?
I tried to look that up. From what I could tell, originally it was the king, and he would tax the nobles. Now, he would tax anything, and then the nobles would tax their serfs. And if the serfs couldn't pay the tax, then the nobles would basically take their property and try to sell off whatever to pay the tax.
I meant in the U.S.
Oh, in the U.S. It still goes back to colonial days, but it wasn't, as far as I can tell, it wasn't as pervasive because, remember, you didn't have towns like we have now. I have to do a little more research to see how it started in the majority. I only saw that it really started to become what we know today in the modern era. So I'll look more of that up. But they go far back, but they weren't always there. And they weren't always the form of taxation that was used. A lot of taxes were tariffs based on trade. Alrighty. The very important dog.
Oh, that was it?
Yeah, that was it. Short and sweet today.
Okay.
Very important dog.
All right, here we go. Stella. She is a friendly dog who's about 3 years old. She's house trained and very, very sweet. Stella is good with children and quite active, so maybe best around older children. She's also good with other dogs. She sounds absolutely perfect.
Mm-hmm. She does. And if you would like more information on Stella, please go to our website, planospoliticalpitbull.com, and click on the link Pit Bulls Up for Adoption. Before we close, we are recording this on December 7th, which is the anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor by the Japanese. This is what got us officially into World War II. May we never forget the sailors and all the people that lost their lives that day. They made the ultimate sacrifice for their country. And we are forever grateful to them. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. That is all for us today. This is Esther.
And this is Ruth.
For Plano's Political Pitbull, signing off.